Lenka White, do we have any more details about this suspect, Matthew Crooks? Any more known about Thomas Matthew Crooks?
Unfortunately, I don't have any further information apart what you already all mentioned, that he's 20 years old, he's from Pennsylvania. Apparently, he lives about 40 miles away from the Trump's rally, from the city Butler. It's not very far. So he had it nearby. I would only say that in the United States, as you know, it's not very hard to get a gun. For example, in Texas, if you have an ID, you just go to a store and buy a gun. It's very simple. Then you could drive it up there to states where it's a little bit harder to get a gun. So it's not very difficult, and definitely we will need to keep investigating. I hope they will reveal some more information this weekend, or, the latest at the beginning of the week. This is a really pressing situation.
It indeed is, and the fact that a presidential candidate there can be an assassination attempt at a very secure rally, because this was a rally that was secured by the Secret Service. Of course, Secret Service has also put out a statement saying that the shooter was outside the security envelope, which means the security service, which is about 7,800 strong, they create a perimeter, and that perimeter everything is checked. There were metal detectors that were put. All those who came to attend former President Trump's rally, they were checked. Their baggage was checked, and that's why it takes hours for people to clear this. Lenka, before I bring in Shashank, would you tell us more about the security envelope and the fact that the Secret Service says that the shooter was outside the security envelope?
As I have mentioned, I have been several times to Trump's rallies, actually, and there is every time thousands of people gathering. Sometimes they are waiting even one day in advance, and they have to wait a long time. They have to go through a gun detector systems, each of them. And I think I always felt rather safe inside, because I knew that Trump had always had strong security with him, and it felt rather secure. But as you mentioned, this appeared to be hundreds of meters away from the actual scene where Trump was performing. So, of course, it's questionable. But listening to experts, listening to security experts who are just now discussing it all over the social media, it seems it still should be definitely part of the security system to make sure that, the person they're securing is actually going to be alive. And if they think there's a potential danger there on the building, they should probably notify, okay, maybe let's move it somewhere else, or let's stay inside. Let's not do it outside. They should know, because their main goal is to make sure that the person is going to survive. And clearly, this didn't work out at this time. So there's something wrong. And for example, I have even been present at the General Assembly in New York, very secure event. And you have helicopters flying above, making sure that the whole space is clear. So, either they will have to strengthen his security, or they will have to limit the space, maybe do it somewhere inside, but clearly it didn't work out.
The question also remains, Lenka, because the Republicans were apprehensive. The Republicans were scared there could be an assassination attempt. In fact, the Republicans, and some of them, have gone on record to say that the deep state of the United States of America is a stakeholder in these elections, and the deep state has been trying to ensure that former President Donald Trump, or the 45th President of the United States of America, does not return as the 47th President of the United States of America. But we'll talk about that in greater detail, whether there are apprehensions. We heard what Steve Bannon said about the apprehensions that the presidential candidate could be assassinated. But how was the shooter taken down? Breaking news coming in. India Today now gets you more details about how the shooter was taken down. As soon as the shooter, who was on an elevated platform on top of a single-storied building and lying spread eagled with his AR-15 assault rifle, seen virtually as a sniper rifle here, given the range at which it could target the US presidential candidate, the moment he started firing, and there were multiple shots fired from the right rear side, is what initial information seems to indicate. The security service, the Secret Service, again on an elevated higher ground, the counter snipers of the Secret Service, who were again on an elevated ground, They fired back instantly and they took down the shooter. That's the information that is coming in. But by then, the presidential candidate Donald Trump had already been shot right top end of the year. The bullet went through and through. The president, his hand, presidential candidate's hand went up. He saw the blood and he immediately dropped to the ground. The Secret Service then formed a perimeter, a human wall around him. They were all on the ground. Then instructions were shouted initially for one man to see. So there's always a watch guard sees whether it's all clear, whether there is any weapon, any barrel of a gun seen. If all clear, then the candidate is whisked away. That's exactly what happened with Donald Trump. He was immediately whisked away with the Secret Service forming a human wall around him, a physical barrier between the presidential candidate and a potential assassin. And that's where he was taken to the hospital. So that is how the shooter was taken down. I once again want to bring in Lenka White for more on this. Secret Service, initially, the information, at least analysts say they were found wanting, but subsequently, they formed this human wall around him and took him to hospital. What more can you tell us about the counter-assassination operations that were immediately mounted, assassin taken down, and the presidential candidate taken to safety?
Yes, I actually saw this happening while I was driving. I was listening to his rally on my phone, and suddenly I'm hearing like snaps. I'm hearing, puff, puff, puff. I'm like, no way that there would be a shooting. And I look at my phone, and really a shooting happened. And people were counting the bullets. Some people said, okay, there were about 6 bullets. What surprised me that the Secret Service, which just briefed us, couldn't tell us how many bullets were actually shot, even though, we could actually count it by just listening to it. I suppose they want to be sure. They don't want to mistakenly say there were 6 bullets, then it turned out 7, but still, it seemed to be rather basic information. And as you said, it was a quick reaction, although I personally think if Trump wouldn't react himself enough quickly, he would be shot by now, because he turned his head while the bullet was sort of running, around him. And let's say he wouldn't turn his head, I think it would just go through his head straight forward, and his brain would just pop out. It's terrible. So I think thanks to a quick reaction of Donald Trump himself, he actually saved his life. And then he jumped down on the podium and the security services sort of surrounded him rightfully, as they should have done so, and they actually heard him saying, let me just put on my shoes. He apparently lost the shoe while doing that. And then he even, chanted like, let's fight. And then he told them, stop, I have to calm down the audience. And he said, fight, fight, fight. So that was very powerful. And then they immediately secured him and transported him to the security service SUVs.